Hello and welcome back to my stamp studio. So I'm here to show you my newest Cardstock card kit using the Simply Succulents. So those of you who know me or have been to my home know I love succulents. In the winter, my front room is full of them. But in the summer, I move them to my back porch, which kind of turns into a little succulent greenhouse. I grow them, I propagate them, and I just love sharing them with many of my friends. I love the uniqueness of the many varieties of succulents, and I especially adore the mixture of different greens, blues, sometimes red, purple hues that all the different varieties have. So I had to get this bundle, and once I started creating with it, I couldn't stop. So you'll be seeing lots of pictures coming up on my Facebook page using this bundle. So it comes from page 39 of the Spring Stampin' Up! Mini Catalog. It's a gorgeous stamp set with coordinating dies. And then just check out these beautiful little sample cards if you haven't had a chance. And just absolutely beautiful. I love the colors that they pulled out in these. So let's talk a little bit more about the bundle. It is a cling mounted stamp set. It is a stamp set of 8. You get this great cluster here of succulents. I think there's actually 5 different varieties in there. You get some individual little succulent stamps. You get this great little pot here. And then some of the sentiments are just a good basic sentiment for card making. They have a mixed font, which you all know I love. You make the ordinary extraordinary. You've been on my mind. Thanks. And kind people are my kind of people. I love that one there. Okay, so a set of 8 cling mounted. Now, they coordinate with the potted succulent dies here. This larger one here coordinates with that large cluster of succulents. And then you have this one and 2 little smaller ones that coordinate with those smaller individual succulent stamps. There's this one that coordinates with the pot stamp. And then you have 3 what I call standalone dies here. They are succulents, but they don't have a stamp that coordinates with them, and they just kind of work beautifully by themselves. And then I really have been enjoying the label dies with this bundle. So they mix and match beautifully. I think they would also be great for anyone's stamp stash. You could easily pull them in with other stamp sets and coordinate them in other card making with other bundles as well. And then that's a beautiful die set right there, I think, but Stampin' Up! Threw a gorgeous larger die in. Absolutely beautiful. And this cuts out very similar to almost like a laser cut, but it has all these gorgeous little clusters of succulents on it, and you're going to get to see that in action here in just a little bit. Okay. So the stamp set and the dies are a bundle price of $54.75, which you know it's celebration time, and it would earn you a Level I celebration product. And there are some gorgeous Level I celebration products. I'm just loving these this year. I'm loving all the papers. This Oso Ombre one here we're actually going to use in this card kit today. And then I just love this Flower and Field DSP. But some great little stamp sets, some birthday sentiments, this gorgeous little corner bouquet set here. So if you haven't had a chance to look at Celebration yet, hurry. It's going to end on February 28th. And so you can find this on my Stampin' Up! Online store. The link will be provided in the description with this video. Or contact me and I'll get one to you as quick as I can if you'd like to have an actual paper brochure of it. Okay? So, in addition to a free celebration product with the purchase of the bundle, my Class to Go card kit, you will receive 4 cards to create. Supplies, I guess I should say, for you to create 4 different cards. And I really enjoyed it. I had a hard time narrowing it down to 4. But here they are. Some of them are a little bit plainer and more simple than others, but then some of them really show off the beautiful die that's in that set, the little succulent dies. And then I really thought that this was a perfect class to do an easel card. Now, there are many different types of easel cards. I opted for one that's just a little bit different. And when you look at this card head on, you see these gorgeous succulents. And when you open it, it actually tilts here to the side. I hope the camera is showing that just a little bit, but it stands up there to the side instead of straight on like many easel cards. And I've used that great little sentiment, you make the ordinary extraordinary, then up on dimensionals to be able to hold that, okay? What a great way to display these beautiful succulents, okay? So you would receive supplies to create one of each of these cards here, okay? Now, because everyone has a little bit different stamp stashes, you may not have some of the products that I'm using in these kit cards. I offer many additional products on what I call an add-on list. You can receive a 10% discount on these add-on items with the purchase of my Class to Go card kit. I will do my best to mention those add-on items in my video today, but they are also listed with this post. It's very important. I got to point this out. The 10% discount on the add-on items is only available when you send me your order and I place it for you. It's the only way I can give you the discount. I do need to charge a $4 postage fee, which covers my mailing of the card kit supplies to you. Your Stampin' Up! Products will be shipped directly to you from Stampin' Up! And once you have all your stamping supplies, you're ready to simply sit and stamp with this video as your guide. The kit does all the creativity for you, and you get to stamp in the comfort and safety of your home. So contact me via email or message me on Facebook when you're ready to place your order. You'll find all these details along with my email in this post with the ordering dates. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out and don't hesitate to ask. Okay? So let's get started on making these cards, all right? So I think I'm going to start out first with this one here, okay? The other thing I kind of wanted to talk about real quick here before I get to stamping is how I stamped these great little envelopes. I don't know if you caught these. So I took the larger cluster of succulents that's in the stamps and stamped the flap of each envelope. And I liked it so much that I did it for all 4 cards, okay? So I thought I'd just take a little opportunity here to show you how I did that. Because some people are like, how do you get that just on the flap? How do you not get it on the rest of the envelope? How do you not get it on the front of the envelope? That kind of thing. So let me show you real quick how I achieved that. I'm going to use the Granny Apple Green real quick, and then I have that larger cluster of succulents stamped mounted on an E block here. I have just a piece of scrappy typing paper here, and I have my envelope. And I'm going to take and open the flap of the envelope, and I'm going to fold my typing paper down inside the flap of that envelope, okay? Just like that. So that that paper is flush up against the inside flap of that, all right? Then go ahead, bring it down, and you do want to have some extra paper here, okay? So that way it doesn't get on your work surface. You could always have an additional blotter under there if you wanted to, okay? So next I'm going to take my Granny Apple Green ink pad, and because this is a little bit larger stamp, I find it's easier to take the ink pad and come down on to the stamp, okay? I'm going to start by stamping up here towards the top, or I shouldn't say top, but this edge or side of the envelope, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and ink up again. And then I'm going to flip my stamp so that it's turned a little differently, so all these succulents fall a little bit differently. and try to just meet up the edges of those succulents the best I can there, knowing that I'm going to be off just a little bit, not covering that entire flap of the envelope, but that's okay. There's a remedy to get those stamped. So you can see there's a little area there and a little area there that still needs to be stamped. Go ahead, ink it up again, and then I'm going to come in here with some of those little succulents that pop out there and just lightly stamp, and I'm able to get those and fill in that little gap there. Okay, now I'm going to flip and turn my stamp again, so I'm not getting the same design. It's going to be a random design across it. And go ahead and stamp my third one here towards this end of the flap. And I just think that is gorgeous on an envelope, don't you? I just think that is really, really pretty there. Okay? All right. So just wanted to have an opportunity to be able to show you how I achieved that and how, look how well it goes with the card then too. Okay? All right. So now back to our first sample. I do have to go back and wash the stamp off on my Stampin' Chamois. If you don't have one of those, you need one. It's so great and quick just to be able to clean a stamp. And then I'm going to pull in a blotter that we're going to need for this first card. So when you receive the supplies for the first card I'm showing you, they will look like this. You will also, of course, have a very vanilla envelope that to go with it. So you have a base of rich raspberry. It will already be scored for you at 4 1/4. This is a standard card size here, 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. You'll have 2 pieces of very vanilla. One of them is for the inside, so I'm going to go ahead and just apply some Stampin' Seal on both ends there and go ahead and attach it. Now these pieces of very vanilla measure 3 3/4 by 5, so they're just a little bit smaller than maybe what we're used to using. And I just liked it because it just showed more of the rich raspberry on the edge, frankly, especially on the front, what we're going to do, okay? In addition to those 2 pieces, you'll also have another scrap piece of very vanilla, and then you'll also have a piece of Old Olive strip here. And I did go ahead and I ran this through the textured embossing folder. So the textured embossing folder is a new 3D embossing folder that is available in the Spring Mini catalog. And this would be an additional add-on item to this class at 10% off. So if you don't have this, it's a great way to pick it up and get 10% off. Okay? But I just took that little strip and ran it through just to give that just a little bit of something there. And you'll see it really does make a difference. All right? So we're going to set that aside. We're going to set our card base aside for right now. We're going to focus here on our larger piece of very vanilla. I'm going to grab in my rich raspberry ink pad and that larger grouping of succulents again, and go ahead and again I'm just going to take my ink pad down onto my stamp. I think it just works better, and I'm going to actually stamp first right in the middle of my very vanilla piece, giving that paper time to really soak up all those intricate little lined the details of this stamp. Okay, isn't that pretty? Go ahead and ink it up again, and then this time I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to rotate my stamp because I don't want similar things next to each other, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to barely kiss upon that first image that I stamped. You can overlap a little. You can see that I did there. If you do too much, I think it kind of takes away from the technique of this or the look of this. So I'm going to take another little point here of this stamp and just fill in this corner here. This stamp actually lends itself beautifully because it does have kind of these two areas that come pointing out a little bit. So it makes it very easy to come in here and fill in these little gaps. Okay, now I just pressed on the one corner, so this time I can come over here and just press on that corner. Okay, and our paper is almost full. Again, I'm going to rotate my stamp so that I don't have similar images right there together, and I can see exactly where that stamp ends and where my previous stamped image starts, so that I'm not overlapping them too much. And then one more corner here we have to do, and I think I can just weasel that right up in there, just like that. Okay? Isn't that pretty? Just a nice way to create a beautiful background with that succulent cluster stamp. Okay? Now, I'm going to set this off to dry. Of course, you know, Stampin' Up! It's quick drying ink, but still, let's give it a little chance to dry. We're going to go ahead and work on this piece here now. And we're going to take our rich raspberry ink again, and I made this a thanks card. Obviously, you could use any of the sentiments in this set or any that you have at home if you want to make it for a different occasion. But go ahead, and I'm stamping the thanks here on one end of my very vanilla piece. And then this is going to get cut out with two of the label dies. The thanks works perfectly with this little bit smaller one. And then you'll have enough paper left to be able to punch one out with the larger one, okay? These two dies layer beautifully together, okay? So once you run that through your die cut machine, this is what you'll have. And I didn't realize, I punched them out, but I didn't realize I did not stamp the thanks on that. So bear with me while I grab the thanks again. And again, it really doesn't matter if you punch out first and then stamp, or if you stamp and then punch out. It really doesn't matter. But let me get that thanks stamped in there. Perfect. Okay. So there's our two pieces that we need there. And let's bring our card base back in here and start building our card. So we're going to take our beautiful stamped piece, flip it over, and I'm going to put some dimensionals on it. Use 4 of them here. I think that this technique, this card design, whatever you want to call it, would actually be gorgeous in any color. I actually made one in green, and I think it might have been the just jade green, and it turned out beautifully. And I made that one a sympathy card, which I thought was nice. It's very plain and simple card design here. It lends itself beautifully to a sympathy card. So I went ahead and took some multi-purpose glue on the back side of our textured old olive strip here. And then we're going to take our larger cutout, and it's going to get placed over the top there. And then I think our thanks I want to pop up on a dimensional. Like I said, these two layer beautifully together. And then I really have enjoyed using the new matte black dots on the cards in this kit. And so because I used them on the other cards, I pulled them out and I actually placed a couple on this card. Even though there's no black on this card, I actually think it looks really nice. So I have my Picket tool. I have the gummy end here. I'm going to reach over here and pick up one of the smaller ones. There are 2 sizes of matte black dots, a small one and a little bit larger one. For this card, I'm using 2 small ones here just at the top and the bottom, just like that, okay, to finish that card off. So there we have our first card, okay, and then here it is, remember, with that gorgeous envelope then, and this one truly does match the card beautifully, okay. All right, that's our first card done. Our second card we're going to make is this one here, okay, this gorgeous cutout. And when you receive your supplies, they will look like this. Now, the card I just showed you is done in the Granny Apple Green. In the Oh So Ombre DSP, which is the Celebration product, it also comes in this beautiful Bermuda Bay color. So there may be a mix in your kit. You may receive this one or this one. If there's one you like more than the other, by all means, share your preference, and I will try and include that one in your kit, all right? But I thought I would make one of each today, and that way you'll have a chance to see both and see which one you like better, okay? So this one happens to be for a Bermuda Bay card, all right? So you have a little Bermuda Bay scrap. You'll have a piece of basic black scrap as well. You'll have a piece of the Oh So Ombre DSP, and this measures the same as a quarter of a sheet of paper. So this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay, it's the same size as a card front. You'll have a piece of our thick basic white cardstock. So it's a little bit heavier, okay? And again, this will measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, the exact same size as a card front. And then you'll have the thick basic white cardstock base then as well, okay? So we're going to set our base aside for right now. We'll set our Oh So Ombre piece aside for right the moment and focus on our piece of basic white that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now I'm going to take this larger die here, and the reason I have the paper as large as I do is it will help you and allow you to have a beautiful little edge all the way around that when you go to cut it out, okay? And I'm actually going to show you, I don't usually show a lot of the die cutting, but I'm actually going to show that to you because I want you to see, give you a little tip here on how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just take my plate here. Now, this die, because it's so large, can sometimes shift and move. And one of the things I do is use some washi tape or a little bit of scotch tape. Not scotch tape, I'm sorry, don't use scotch tape. Some washi tape works the best. I have a little bit of low tack painter's tape that I use sometimes. But once you have this exactly where you want it, I suggest that you take it and actually tape it right down onto your plate, okay? That way there's no chance of it shifting and moving, and that way the perimeter of your card, or the perimeter around this die, will be exactly the way you want it, okay? Go ahead and press on that a little more firm. I think I've used this tape more than once, so it's not ultra sticky. So, okay, so I'm going to take this plate over to my Stampin' die cut and emboss machine and cut this out. So bear with me. You do hear some snap, crackle, and popping as this one goes through. And I do suggest that once you roll it through once, go ahead and roll it back, reverse, so that it goes through a second time, okay? All right, now, I also think that our little foam mat and our Pick-a tool that has the brush adapter to it is a great tool to use for this, okay? But I will tell you that these all pop out beautifully. You know, we used to sit and fight with a lot of these little intricate dies to get pieces out, but lately they have been better. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick that up. You can see that some of the pieces have already fallen out. I'm I'm going to pick that up, bring it over to my sponge bottom here, and take my brush from my Picket tool and just gently rub it over the surface of that. And then you will see how it basically, all the pieces just fall out just like that, okay? You may still have a few little stragglers here. If you can't get them out with your fingers, working them out this way, there are some little small tiny ones. Then you take the paper piercer end of your Picket tool and go ahead and just help them out. And really, 1, 2, 3 is all I needed to do. The rest of that all just fell out beautifully. Okay, so we've come a long way with our little fine dies, seriously, in the way that they punch out. All right, so let's get all of our shrapnel here out of the way, and we can continue to build our card. So we have this gorgeous thing right here, okay? Now, in the past, there's been some other little intricate dies that I have shown you this technique to attach them to your card. So this should line up perfectly with your Oso Ombre piece, just like that. If it doesn't, check it and make sure, and trim off any extra that you might have, okay? In addition, it should also line up perfectly with your card front. It should be flush against all 4 sides here, okay? If it isn't, go ahead and do a little bit of trimming, okay? Very easy to do. All right, so let's get this put onto our Oso Ombre piece. So I'm going to bring in my silicone mat here, and I'm going to take my multi-purpose liquid glue and put a nice sized little dollop there in the corner. And you've seen me do this. This is one of the Stampin' sponges. It actually comes in a nice big round one, but I take them and cut them in 4ths, and then I just use the 4th, okay? We're going to take our beautiful die cut. I'm going to flip it over to the back side, lay it right here on my silicone mat. I'm going to dip my sponge into the glue here and get a healthy amount on there. And what I'm going to do is just go around and hit mostly just the perimeter of this, okay? Remember, it's paper. It's very thin, delicate paper. It's not going to take much for this to actually stick, okay? But you do want to make sure you hit most of the perimeter and especially those corners. If you have any extra glue left over, by all means, feel free to come in here, hit kind of the center of each of those succulents there. That will certainly help it stick as well, okay? But in my mind, I think the perimeter is more important almost, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and see how that just comes right off there. Move my silicone mat out of the way for the moment. Take my Oso Ombre piece here, and not only am I going to guide it on the sides, but I'm going to tap it on my work surface here so that I know it's flush down here at the bottom. And then I'm just going to take and from one end, just gently with my fingers, just kind of work it so that it's nice and straight and smooth across, just like that, okay? A really quick and easy way to attach these very intricate, delicate dies, okay? Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to place this on our card front. And I think the easiest way to do that is to use some of the multi-purpose liquid glue again. If you wanted to pop it on the dimensionals, I think you could. Just know that you're not going to have that edge of that card. This is going to butt up and be the exact same size as your card front, okay? So notice I got a lot of multi-purpose glue, especially in those corners, to help hold it. Again, to make sure that this is attached perfectly with the front, I'm going to take it, tap it down onto my work surface. I'm rubbing my hands on the sides here too to make sure that it's lined up on the sides. And once you have it where you think you want it, go ahead and press firmly. You can even open it up then and press from the inside and all around that perimeter, okay? Now, if you see any little edges popping out, this is the time where you might want to trim it up a little bit, okay? So you notice the back side of that Oso Ombre paper is actually Rococo Rose, Okay, so that would make a beautiful card too. So if you prefer that color, let me know and we'll include that. Okay, so I'm just going to trim out that little bit of extra, and you may need to do that as well just to even it up. All right, so this is so pretty by itself. It doesn't need much for the front. So all I basically did was a nice little sentiment. I really thought that all these colors worked beautifully with black. And so when I do black, I think white embossing. So I'm going to take my embossing buddy over my little scrap of basic black here. I'm doing it generously. And then I'm going to use the sentiment, kind people are my kind of people. On there, go ahead and stamp that in Versamark ink. That's the clear watermark ink pad. You won't see any ink on there. It's pretty much just a wet clear ink that then when you put embossing powder over the top, it's going to stick beautifully. Okay? Now, one of the things I always try to have handy near me when I am embossing is a nice little paintbrush, especially with the white on black embossing. You can easily come in here with your paintbrush and kind of whisk away any of those little extra powder flakes that might be left from the white embossing powder. Okay, now we're also going to stamp this little smallest succulent stamp. Again, I'm going to buddy my Bermuda Bay cardstock. Go ahead and ink up my little succulent just like that. And we're again going to take and put some white embossing powder over that because it goes beautifully with our color scheme of our card here. Then you would take your heat tool and you would heat those. The Versamark, the white embossing powder, and the heat tool are all included as add-on items to this class. Embossing buddy, if you do not have one, let me know. I have a stash of them. Unfortunately, Stampin' Up! Does not sell those any longer. Once you heat those, there's the coordinating die that goes with that little succulent. And then you're going to use the larger stitched label die to punch that one out. Okay? Now, for the sake of time, I've already done that. So we'll set these aside and pull those in. Here they are here, okay? And then we're just going to take them and put them onto our card here. Now, this I actually put 2 regular size dimensionals on the back side of. I had a hard time placing this. Where does it go? It looks great everywhere you put it, all over this card front, really. But I opted to kind of just throw it over here, lower left-hand corner, but inset just a little bit, because then that allowed me to put this cute little succulent right there, which I thought looked really nice there. Now, some of the leaves of the succulent are going to overlap your basic black cardstock, okay? So when you go to put a dimensional on this, I want you to keep it over here to the side, all right? If you want to use a mini dimensional, that might be a good idea as well, just so you don't have so much dimensional over there, okay? But kind of line that up there so that it sits right next to that sentiment, which I thought looked really cute there, but did not distract or take away from the design behind there, okay? Now, I also pulled in, again, the matte black dots, and I just threw one right here in the center of the succulent just to pull that in, okay? These dots are great. Like I said, they come in 2 different sizes, and I don't think I mentioned, but you get 160 of these in one pack, so you get a lot of them. All right, so there's our second card. The inside is blank for you to write your message to whoever you send the card to, okay? So I really like that. Now, I kind of reversed this one where I left the dark and it transitioned to the light, whereas the Granny Apple Green one, I did the opposite. The light's at the top and the dark's at the bottom. So I like them both, and they remind me so much of paint splotches, don't they? Or paint chips when you go to get them at the paint store, don't they? Just love that, though, over that. So pretty. All right, so on to our third card. This is going to be our third card here. And when you receive your supplies, they will look like this right here. You will have a pretty peacock base. It's a standard size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. You'll have a piece of Pool Party cardstock. I have already taken it and run it through the Ornate Flower 3D embossing folder. I just thought this looked beautiful with the succulents. And this would be an add-on item to this class, 10% off. So if you don't have this one, this is another great one to pick up, okay? In your kit, you will also have a piece of basic white cardstock. This measures 4 by 5 1/4. You will also have a stitched circle die cutout. And I'll do these ahead for all the kits, but just to show you how I got that, I used the Stitched Shapes framelit dies. This is a die set that I go to all the time. If you watch my videos, you know that. This really is, in my mind, a staple for many stampers should have, okay? So, and particularly the circle ones I go to. And I love, again, that trendy stitched look around each of the shapes. Then you'll have a piece of just scrap basic white. You'll have a piece of scrap just jade, a piece of scrap bumblebee, pretty peacock, and then some old olive. Okay, so you have lots of little scraps. And then you'll have a piece of the yellow gingham check. It's bumblebee, actually, color ribbon, which I just thought looked really cute with this little gingham check ribbon. All right, so let's start like we always do. Let's pull out that little bit larger piece of basic white cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and place some adhesive here, my Stampin' Seal, at each end, and that's going to be our inside piece. Oops. Make sure we get it centered there. Okay. And then our piece of Pool Party gets placed up on dimensionals. So I'll go ahead and put 4 dimensionals on the back side of this. This die is so hard because I actually love both sides of this. So pretty. So it's hard to know which one to use. And this will measure so that you have just a little bit, 1/4 of an inch all the way around here, okay? All right, there you go. All right, now let's start building our card a little bit. So that stitched circle die is going to get placed, I used multi-purpose glue to place it, and it's going to get placed kind of over here to the right, down towards the bottom, just like that, okay? Right there, press that down just a little bit. Now you're going to need to do some die cutting, and you're going to be using those 3 pieces and then this one here, and also your whisper white, sorry, basic white. Gosh, so change is hard for me. So your pretty peacock is going to get the embossing buddy rubbed over it, and then you're going to take that cute pot from this set and take your Versamark, ink it up, and go ahead and stamp that down onto your pretty peacock piece. And then we're going to bring in our white embossing powder again. Over the top of that, tap off the extra. Again, if you need to take paintbrush to get any off, do so. But it is going to get cut out. So if it's on the outside edges, don't worry about it. That will get cut off with the die, okay? You'll take your heat tool. You'll go ahead and you'll heat that up, okay? And then, let me just show you the dies here. Of course, there's going to be a die there that you can cut out the pot. There is that little sprig succulent die there that goes on the Old Olive, and there's that other one there that goes on the Just Jade. And then that larger label die here is going to fit on that piece of Bumblebee. That barely fits, but your piece, it will fit, I promise. Now, in addition to running those through, you're also going to do some stamping on here, and we're going to be able to cut those out as well. Okay, we're going to take our Just Jade ink, and again, I'm using that Thanks, which I need to clean off, and I am inking it up in Just Jade. Okay, all these ink colors will also be included in this Class to Go kit at 10% off. The Pretty Peacock, Just Jade, Rich Raspberry, and Granny Apple Green. Not only the ink pads, but I also usually do the refills as well. Okay? All right, so then that's going to get cut out there like that. Okay? Now, another ink pad that will be included in this Class to Go kit is the Momento Tuxedo Black. I'm just going to flip that around, and I'm going to pull in those two little smaller succulent stamps here, okay? The smallest one I want to ink and stamp twice. And the larger one we just need one of, okay? Now, one of the coolest techniques, I think, with these succulents are to use the blends. I really think you can maximize the realistic look you get with them using the blends and mixing and matching those, okay? All right, I'm going to move those aside, all of our dies, and I'm going to show you a few techniques that I used for those, okay? So let's pull in the blends that I've chosen for this class. Here they are. And I have the, yes, this is Petal Pink. Petal Pink, Pool Party, Granny Apple Green, Just Jade, Old Olive, Rich Raspberry, Smoky Slate, and then I have a blend, the Color Lifter here, okay? And these would all be add-on items to this class, 10% off. So if you haven't picked up any of these blends or these colors, these would be great colors to add or get started with, okay? Now, what I'm going to start to do here is show you how you can build your layers of colors to give these realistic. There are different ways. You'll see different techniques done with blends, but this is how I prefer to do them. I start out with the lightest of the two, okay? So I'm grabbing my lightest Pool Party. I'm going to use the little bit thicker end here, and I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to color the smallest succulent with that lightest color, okay? Just like that. Now I'm going to grab the dark one, and again I'm going to use that brush tip end, the little bit thicker end, and I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to hit around the edges of each of those petals, okay? There's little lines in the stamped image, so you kind of know where to go and where to hit them. And then I go back in there with my light one and I just go over it and help them blend those colors together. Now the lighter one is a lighter shade, so it can never make it darker than the actual ink. That darker two-tone one will still be there, okay? If there's any areas you would like to be a little bit lighter, then you take your color lifter and you come in here and you go wherever you would like it to be a little bit lighter. So if you feel like you got a little too much in one area, this is a great little addition to have to be able to lift some of that color off, okay? Now, the other smaller succulent here, I used Just Jade. And again, I took the lighter one and I colored the whole thing in. And then I took the darker one and I went around the edge of each of these. I keep calling them petals, but I guess leaves on a succulent. And go around. And sometimes you get a little worried. You think, ooh, that looks really bad. Wait till you go back in there with your lighter blend. It just works magic with it, okay? Now I kind of like it like that. I don't even know if I want to go in there with my lighter one all over it again, because I kind of like the way it left those lines in there. But they'll still be there, and if it's still too much, again, this color lifter is fabulous. Come over here in the center if you want a little bit more variation in the color then, and it'll just pick that right up, okay? I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not. It's pretty intricate there, but now this one we're going to do a little bit different technique with. We're going to do 2 colors on this one, and I started out with the dark petal pink of this one, okay? And when I'm coloring most of that little leaf, but I'm leaving the tip of it white, okay? And I'm just going to kind of spot hit that center, not do the whole thing, but I'm leaving a lot of white showing on the tips of each of those petals, okay? Does that show up on there at all? Yeah. And then I'm going to grab my lightest Granny Apple Green, and where I left those little white tips on each of those leaves, I'm going to go around with that and just lightly hit those. All the way around. You might want to do just a little bit extra here in the center. Okay. Now, once you have that done, then I'm going to grab my lightest, this time, petal pink. And I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go over my greens, I'm going to go over that darker petal pink, and you will see how it just blends those colors together beautifully. Just like that. And you kind of get that great little two-tone effect. Okay? Hopefully that's picking up. Now, if you remember right, there are dies that go with these. And what's great about this little die set is it actually gives you 2 of these dies. So you can punch them out at the same time. You'll have this one to be able to punch that one out. And then remember, we had this one to punch out your sentiment. Okay? So you'll take those over to your die cut machine and do that. And then you will have this with all your other ones too, okay? These are all the pieces that you need, okay? All right, so let's bring our card base back in here and continue to build our card here. I think the next thing I actually am going to do is go ahead and put my piece of bumblebee here with my label on first. A little bit of that actually gets tucked under your white circle, so I had to kind of peel that up just a little bit, but it came up nicely. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put our pot on here, and I am going to go ahead and just use multi-purpose glue for that. You could use dimensionals if you want to, but I really want to use some dimensionals on the succulents, so I am going to save dimensionals for that. Now, before you stick that down too hard, you leave some of the top of that pot up there just a little bit, because we're going to attach your Just Jade succulent. The very bottom of it will match up with the top edge here of your pot. And then the same thing with our little old olive succulent sprig. I don't know what to call them. Same thing, that one's going to come off over here to the right, but the bottom of that is going to match up with the top part of your pot, okay? Just like that. The next one you can adhere is this one. Remember the pink and green two-tone succulent. And I think that one sits nicely right over here. I just have it covering the top edge of that pot, okay? And then the little bit lighter Pool Party, smaller succulent, I have that one going next. And that one kind of tucks underneath the two-tone one. but stays kind of up and above the top edge of that pot. And then your last one, I'm going to put a mini dimensional on this one. I'm also going to take my finger, you could use your bone folder too, come around and just kind of pull some of those leaves forward on that one. That's the one that's really going to set front and center here. And it kind of overlaps, comes down, but overlaps those other two there, just like that. Okay? Now the next thing I want to attach is my ribbon, and I just took the ribbon and I tied a bow, and I did not pre-tie my bow, so I have to tie one here on camera. It's always a risk, but I think we did it. You're going to have plenty of ribbon, kind of keep pulling it to get to the size you want. It's not going to take a very large one, but smaller one works better here. And then you're going to want a glue dot to attach it. And then I just stuck it right in here next to that succulent that's popped up on dimensionals. Just kind of right there along that edge, okay? I'm going to take my paper snips and trim off any extra ribbon here I might have. And then the last thing we need to add is our sentiment. And the sentiment, I think I am going to pop up on dimensionals. Or one. I think a regular size dimensional is probably enough there. And it just gets layered over the white circle, but kind of up into the corner into that bow there. Okay, isn't that cute? And then we are using the matte black dots on all these cards, so I decided to pull them in for this one as well. First I took one of the larger ones, and I just snuck it right over here, the center there. And then I took a small one and another small one right here. Top and bottom, kind of sandwiching that larger one there, just to add a little bit of an accent there. I think these black dots go with everything. So cute. All right, so there is our third card. Okay, really cute, right? Oh, so cute. Okay, now our last card is our fancy card. It is our Easel Card, okay? Remember this one here, that when we look at it head on, it looks like a regular card, but then we go to fold it up, okay? Now, this sample card I'm showing you here has black as a layering piece back behind. I didn't like that. So in your card kit, you will receive a different color. I really like the Just Jade behind there with the Granny Apple Green. So I changed it up a little bit. So when you see my sample card, you're like, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't look like yours. That's why, okay? So you have a nice piece of linen thread. You'll have a scrap piece of Pool Party. You'll also have a scrap piece of Just Jade, a scrap piece of Old Olive. Then you'll have a piece of Granny Apple Green, which measures 3 3/4 by 5, and I've already run it through that beautiful textured embossing folder like I used on the first card. Then you'll have a piece of Just Jade cardstock that measures 4 by 5 1/4, and your Granny Apple Green piece should layer on there beautifully with a 1/4 inch surround, okay? And then you'll have a couple pieces of Whisper White. Sorry, Basic White. You'll have actually 3 pieces of Basic White that measure 4 by 5 1/4. And I just made them all the same so that way we wouldn't get confused. One is for your inside of your card, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Attach that one. We'll stamp and seal there and there. And your card is going to open this way this time, okay? One side will have a diagonal score line on it. That is the front of your card, okay? So your Basic White piece needs to go on the opposite side of that. That'll be your inside, okay? Okay, just like that. Now, that score line that you have on your base here, we'll talk about that right now. You might be inclined to take it and fold it back. It actually does not get folded back. It actually gets folded in towards the inside of your card, okay? So if you want to do that now, that's fine. Go ahead and open up your card, and then we'll go ahead and we'll fold this in. And it's always a good idea to take your bone folder and give yourself a nice little crisp crease there, just like that, okay? And then this becomes our card base here, okay, just like that. So we're going to set this aside for right now. We don't need that quite yet. Go ahead and set these two pieces aside as well. These three pieces I'm going to show you here are going to get cut out with some dies. And they are going to be the Old Olive is going to go with this one. The Just Jade is going to go with that one. And the Pool Party is going to get one of the label dies. Okay? Now there's going to be more cutting out to do, okay? So I think what I'll do with those is I'm just going to take them and put them on one of the black piercing mats for right now. Because we're going to be building, there's going to be quite a bit of die cutting with this card, all right? So I'm going to take those and just set those aside so then we'll be ready to take them over to the die cut machine when we add some more to them. Now, you have your two pieces of Whisper White, 4 by 5 1/4, okay? We're going to stamp these up. So, we need that larger cluster of succulents. Make sure I clean that off. And I found when we're stamping this in the Momento Black, we're going to color these in with the Momento Black ink and the blends. I found that it inked much better when I used my Stamparatus. So I'm actually going to pull my Stamparatus in for this. And I think I'll go ahead and include it as a 10% off item in this class. I just think that this is a great staple for, again, for all stampers to have. It's always a good idea to have something underneath the plate as it comes around so that way you have a little bit flatter surface when you're going to ink your stamp. And then I'm going to take one of these Whisper White pieces, set it in here like this. Place a magnet down here in the corner like that to hold it in place. And then I'm going to take this stamp that I had mounted on my D block, pull it off, and I'm going to take and stamp side down. I'm going to place it towards the top of my basic white piece there, okay? Bring my plate back down, pick that stamp up, and then bring it back. We're going to take our Tuxedo Black Momento ink pad. Again, so much easier to ink it up like this too, I think, because you're coming down onto the stamp with the ink pad. Sorry if I'm shaking the table and the camera. And we're going to go ahead, bring that down, and firmly press. Now, because we're going to use blends on this, and it's pretty intricate, and there's a lot of them, I really want these black lines to show. I even toyed with black embossing. I think that would be beautiful too, to black emboss it and color it in with blends. But another way you can really achieve that dark black imprint look is with the Stamparatus. So I can ink this up again. And because I know that that is perfectly placed, I can come back down over and I can re-ink it a second time, giving that paper a chance to soak up even more of that black ink, even more of the detail that's in that stamp. Okay? See? Oh, in person that is so much darker and looks so much nicer when I do a second inking, okay? And the Stamparatus allows me to do that. Okay? All right, so that's all I use the Stamparatus for, so I'll go ahead and set that aside. Now let's continue to stamp our pieces here. So what else are we going to need? I don't know why I keep putting that Momento ink pad away. I need it every time. We are going to need the two little individual stamps. the little bit larger one, you're going to need 2 of these. So go ahead and ink those up and stamp those over here with your large cluster, leaving enough space so that the dies can get around them. And then the little bit smaller succulent, you're going to need 2 of those as well. Okay. Just like that. Now, that piece is pretty full. I think we're done with that one. You're going to pull in the pot that goes with this great stamp set again. And for this particular card, we actually need 3 of these pots, okay? So I'm going to turn this one sideways. I'm going to go ahead and stamp 3 of these. Turn my paper and get the third one here at the bottom. And then one other thing you need to stamp, you have a little more room here for, is your sentiment. So whichever sentiment you decide to use from the kit, I'm going to use You Make the Ordinary Extraordinary, and I'm going to ink it in the rich raspberry ink. Turn this and go ahead and just place it down here, keeping it in from the sides enough so, of course, my label die will be able to cut that out nicely. Okay, just like that. All right, now, I kind of showed you some coloring tricks on the last card. I'm going to show you a few more coloring tricks. I kind of colored these the same on this card as I did the last card. So go ahead and make a green one. Go ahead and make kind of a little pink with green one. And then these 2, I made a pool party and another one with the Just Jade, okay? But this one, the cluster, I kind of wanted to show you a few tricks that I had for it. So I'm going to pull in my Just Jade first. Again, I'm going to pull in the lightest one. And these little kind of cute little dangling succulents here, I went ahead and I just colored the whole type of succulent with the light color of Just Jade, okay? So you would finish, you would color this cluster here and this cluster here all the way up, okay? And I'm going super quick here, so, but sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I think that looks nice though, especially this, because you're not so picky and finicky about it. You just kind of get it on there, and I think it has more of kind of a watercolor or blend look to it, okay? Now, take your darker Just Jade blend and go in here and just randomly pick a few of these little leaves and color those with the darker color. And when you stand back and you look at that, oh, it's so pretty to see the 2 different colors together. It makes it really look realistic, in my opinion. Okay, like that. If there's places that you missed, of course, you can always go back in here with your lighter one and fill those in. Okay? Like I said, I'm doing this kind of rushed and hurried here, so. All right, so that was those. These over here that dangle, I did with the pool party. I went ahead like I did before, and I colored all of them in the light pool party. Just like that. Again, I'm working very quickly. I want this to be too long a video again. Get in the habit of doing these hour-long videos. I'm like, oh, is everybody sticking with me? And then the stamped image actually kind of does the work for you here. You just go in and kind of highlight those little black detailed lines in the stamped image. Just go along the edge. And actually, the quicker and faster I go on this, I think the cooler it looks to give you that little bit of a two-tone leaf in that one. Okay, just like that. If you wanted to go back over it again with your lighter one to blend those a little more, you certainly could. Okay? Now, This one over here, I did Rich Razzleberry. Again, I took my light Rich Razzleberry. I'm going to take the fine tip in this time. And come in here and just color all those little leaves in. Okay. It's very relaxing. For those of you who love to color, I just found these succulents so fun to work on and color in different colors, mixed and matched the colors with them a little bit. Kind of did some, you know, out of the ordinary colors too on some of them, and I really like the way they turned out. Like I said, I'll be posting some of those on my Facebook page coming up. So once you have that all filled in, then you take your darker one, and this time I would suggest that you use the fine tip end. And all I did was go around the inside edge of each of these petals, leaves, whatever we decided to call them. Wherever there's a black line, just go ahead, and at first you're going to think, ooh, I ruined it, it doesn't look right. Oh, just wait here. Keep working it, and do all those lines just like that. I hope the camera's showing. I don't know if it is or not. Okay, and then take your lighter Rich Razzleberry again and come in here and just color the whole thing in, okay? This time I might take my thick end and really come in here and get some blend going, right like that, okay? And you really make those dark lines so much lighter, and they look so natural on that succulent, I think. Just give it so much detail, okay? All right, now this one here, we're going to do similar to how we did before. We're going to make this one a little bit of the petal pink and the green. And how I did this one was I simply just took this petal pink, went down one side of each of these leaves, petals, just one side of each one. That's all I did, okay? Just down the side. And then I grabbed the Old Olive. I think it was Old Olive. No, I guess not, because Old Olive I'm saving for this one here. It was the light color of Granny Apple Green. And I just took it and colored the other half of that petal with that, just to give it kind of this cute little, almost stripey look to these, okay? And then if you feel like it needs a little bit more, you need to blend it a little bit more, again, take that light petal pink now and go in there, and you can really blend the pink and the green together, okay? And the green will not come off onto your lighter pink here, but it really helps those blend out, okay? Isn't that fun? All right, now the last one I did with, no, I didn't do Old Olive on it. Huh. Okay, I did, sorry, I did the Granny Apple Green. So you'll want to take your Granny Apple Green, come in here, and you're going to color all these leaves, again, kind of leaving that tip white, the very tip of it, okay, of each of those little leaves there, okay? And again, I'm working very quickly. I feel like my quick ones, though, are kind of fun. I mean, they're, you know, they have a little bit more of kind of a rough look to them, which I kind of like, actually. Then after I do that, I love that with the little white edge, but I did take the dark Rich Razzleberry, the fine point, and I went around each of these tips, and I just did the very tip of each of these petals, okay? And you have all seen this variety of succulent. with these colors like this and this little tip of red, burgundy, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to do it all the way in the center. There's a couple of these that they're just kind of straight. I'm going to go ahead and just do them straight. And as you work towards the center, there might be a couple more that you want to do just to kind of even that center out just a little bit. Isn't that pretty? And now we'll take our light granny apple green, come back in here and blend those colors together. Okay, wherever there's white, it will fill in. Okay, and you don't need to worry about that rich raspberry getting onto your granny apple green marker. It's already dry. They're alcohol markers. They dry super fast. Okay, isn't that pretty? And if you want to build on it just a little bit more, you could take your dark granny apple green now, maybe the fine tip, and you could come in here and kind of go underneath each of those, especially in the center, to give it a little bit darker appearance in the center, like which would be in nature. Just like that. And if you wanted it to blend just a little bit more, again, always take that lighter one and go in here and blend those out, okay? So I always start with the light, I end with the light. It just has been the way that's worked the best for me. Okay, pretty, isn't that pretty? And there you go, there's our cluster, okay? So pretty. All right, now the pots. Here's how we're going to color the pots. So we're going to pull in the smoky slate. Again, I'm going to use the lightest smoky slate blend. And I'm going to color the top, color the bottom. And I really feel like with these, you can be kind of messy. You can leave a little white showing. I'm going to take the dark smoky slate, go across the top, go across the bottom, and then I might want to just take it a little bit along the edge here. It'll just give that little bit of shadowing there that will give it a realistic look. Okay? Just like that. Okay? And then our stripes that go across, I am going to use the two Just Jades, the lighter one. I'm just alternating those across that pot. I thought these colors looked really good with that smoky slate. Okay, so there's one pot. All right. Now the other pot, we're going to do a rich raspberry color. I am going to take and color the bottom here just like that with the lightest. Take my darker one then and come in and kind of fill in, going across, kind of down the sides again, and then hit that bottom. I think that really anchors it to give it that little bit darker color down there, the bottom edge, okay? And that's all you need to color on that one, okay? Because we are going to trim these up, okay? You're not going to use that top part of that. And then the last pot here, I colored with the lightest Just Jade. And again, if you want to take the darker one to come in here and really come down the sides a little bit, do that base. It just gives it so much dimension and makes it look so real. And then your bands across here are going to be in the dark Granny Apple Green. And I just made these all the same on this one. Of course, you know, on yours, you can change it up and do it however you'd like. Okay? Just like that. And I'm not going to worry about coloring that top piece because we are going to create 3 different sizes of pots, okay? We're going to use a full one, the lower half, and then just a medium one here on our card, okay? Now, all of these have dies that coordinate with them, okay? You will take it over to your die cut machine, and you will cut these out with the pot. Obviously, these with the coordinating succulent dies. The words get this die right here, okay? And for the sake of time, I already did those here. You remember you will also have these here that you need to cut out, okay, of your scraps. And this is what you will end up with right here, okay? So it's lots of pieces, I know, but it's going to make this beautiful, fabulous card, all right? Okay, so let's start building our card. So we're going to pull back in our Just Jade piece and our Granny Apple Green piece. I'm going to go ahead and take some multi-purpose glue and go around here just like that and layer that on our Just Jade piece here. And let's start building our succulents. All right? All right, so the first one I want to grab, I think I'm going to start with the center because it's the biggest here. And the center one gets the little gray smoky slate pot, okay? And this one I did pop up on dimensionals, A-dimensional, and it kind of sits up just a little bit from the bottom, okay? We're going to have 3 pots on this card. I'm going to try and put one here, and I'm going to try and have one lower, okay? So kind of think of that as you're placing that one. Then we have our beautiful succulent cutout here. And we're going to go ahead and place some dimensionals on the back side of it. I did 4. That's maybe a little overkill, but it's going to hold. And this one, I like to position this way. I leave this bigger one down here towards the bottom. I kind of like these because they look like they're hanging off the edge of the pot. And I just kiss that image to the top of that pot there, okay? Now, I don't want this part sticking out too far over the top of my card, okay? So I'm a little worried that my pot's too high. So lesson learned there. I'm going to bring the pot down just a little bit. There we go. And now, yeah, it can hang over a little bit, but I don't want it hanging over too much. Otherwise, it won't fit in my envelope. Okay, just like that. That looks good. Okay. All right, the next pot we're going to attach is this one here. It's the Rich Raspberry one. You're going to take your paper snips and you're just going to snip the top of that pot off. We're just making a little bit smaller pot for over here, okay? And we're going to put a little bit of multi-purpose glue backside of it. And it's going to get placed just a little higher than that center pot. I'm using just the plain little green succulent that I had. And it will kind of have to go back behind your larger succulent there. There you go. And it's not all going to show. It's just going to be a little bit of that sticking out. That's fine. And then you're going to have one of those little smaller succulents. And again, I'm going to go around with my finger and kind of curl those leaves up on it. I'm using a mini dimensional for it. Before I attach it though, one of your little green sprigs gets to go in over here, okay? Again, you can kind of just stick it back behind things, but have it so that it's still coming out there. And then this little guy sits right here on top. So it's all covering just that top edge of the pot there. It makes it look like it's coming out of a little bit smaller, more of like a terrarium pot. Okay. All right, now our last pot is this one. Again, we colored the stripes on it, that Granny Apple Green. So I'm just going to take my snips and snip off the top edge of that. This is going to get put down with multi-purpose glue. And this one's going to sit just a little bit lower and over a little bit there. Just like that. And we're going to again take that larger succulent, multi-purpose glue, and this one again is going to kind of hide back behind that larger center succulent. I have a little small, one of the pink and green ones that we did, the little pale pink and the granny apple green, curling up the corners again. Going to grab dimensional. Before we attach that, we're going to attach our other little succulent guy here, okay? So I'm going to put a little bit down there at the bottom, and I'm going to sneak that underneath there. Again, making sure it's not going to overhang on my card, okay, at the edge over here. So I want to make sure that my card will close. So now I'm remembering when I made my sample, it did overhang a little bit, and I ended up snipping it off, which is what we're going to do. Because I really want it to show back there, and that's really the only way it can show. So I went ahead and I snipped this and gave it kind of a little angle cut, and you can't even tell. See? All right. That look good. Oh, I think that's just gorgeous like that. All right, now you're going to take your linen thread. I gave you an extra long piece so you can do a double bow. You're going to take both of those ends together just like that. You'll come down here, have a loop, take your paper snips, snip that, okay? Keep both strands together as you tie a bow, okay? And that's how you make a double bow. So many people, I know in past classes, are like, how'd you do that? How'd you do that and do double? It's two strings tied together. It's so easy, okay? It's pretty good. It's a pretty good sized bow. Go ahead and take a glue dot. And then this I actually just placed down here on the right hand corner of that center smoky slate pot, okay? And I kind of like long tails on this. I think it just shows them off really. They look kind of nice just hanging there. It shows it off kind of nice. Okay, so I left them a little longer. I'm going to snip them up and kind of even them up a little bit, but I'm going to leave them long. Okay. Cute. Oh, just love that. All right, maybe they're just a titch long. They're kind of wild. All right, there we go. Now, the last thing we get to do is put our card together, okay? So our sentiment here, I'm going to take this pool party label, and I'm going to cut it apart. I'm going to take my multi-purpose glue and attach a little bit there and attach a little bit there. And then I'm going to take my sentiment and I'm just going to attach it right there. I'm centering the rounded with the tip of the pool party one. Okay. It's just a nice way. It kind of makes your label dies go a little farther. You can layer them like that. Make sure they don't slip and slide on you and they stay centered like that, okay? I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to place dimensionals on the back side of this. And this is key. You must use dimensionals on this, okay? I am actually going to use 3, which is a little overkill on a piece of paper this size. But this is what's going to anchor our easel to stand, okay? So I really want it sturdy. I guess is my point. Okay. Let's turn it back over and make sure my pool parties are still straight. Yep, they are. Okay. So let's set that aside for right now and bring in our card base. Remember that we had folded here. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to attach this to the front. Now when I attach this to the front, it's just like attaching it like any other card we've ever made, okay? It's going to have about 1/4 of an inch around, okay? But I do not want to attach it to the whole card front. I only want to attach it to that lower half there, okay? So what's easier for me to do is just put my multi-purpose glue here, okay, on your lower triangle, all right? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to keep it 1/4 of an inch in from the edge, okay, because I don't want any glue ooping out. And then I'm just going to take this and place it down just like I would layering any other front to a card, a layer to the front of a card, I guess I should say, where I have 1/4 of an inch around, okay? Of course, pressing mostly on this bottom part here. Okay, isn't that cute? Oh, I just love this. Anyway, and then when you go to pull it up, see, you don't have any glue on this back side. You don't want any here or here, okay? Now, to get our card to stand, I hope I'm going to be able to do this on camera, but you kind of place it where you want it, okay, where you'd want it to stand. I kind of hold it with a finger here on the corner of the right side there. I bring my little sentiment strip in, and I can just gently lay it so that it's all inside the card, obviously. You don't want any overhanging the edge of the card, but you do want it kind of straight too. Pop that baby right down there and see how that holds that perfectly. Cute. Oh, I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but it is just such a fun, cute fold, and I think there is no better way to show off all these beautiful succulents and all your hard coloring work that you did, okay? All right, just love that. Okay, so let's bring in all 4 cards again for this class. This one and this one. And then this one here, okay? So fun. So I hope you are intrigued by this bundle, the Simply Succulents, and this class to go. Succulents are pretty trendy right now, and Stampin' Up! Has truly captured the succulents' realistic look, I think, in these stamped images, and they are truly inspired by nature. They will allow you to create a unique card I think anyone would love to receive as some happy mail. So thank you for sticking with me. I know this was a long video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate your time. Be well until next time.